Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Therapy, Etc. I have my very special guest here today, Gabby, and I will let her introduce a little bit about herself before we get into a very interesting topic and hopefully a topic that many people can hear and relate to, depending on what's going on with you. So, Gabby, I'll let you start.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the invitation to join you today. My name is Gabby Gonzalez Leung. My pronouns are she, her, ella. And I am a Southern California native, born and raised in Fontana. Shout out to anyone listening from the 909. And, proud graduate of UC Santa Barbara. And I'm currently living in Inglewood with my husband of almost 5 years. And I just one thing about me, I'm a very proud tia to two nieces, two nephews. And I always say that it's my life's goal to be the world's best tia.
Oh, I love
Happy to be here.
that. Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Gabby, I met you in undergrad in Santa Barbara. So fun fact, or I don't know if it's a fun fact or not, but do you still love the color lime green?
I do. I do.
So,
I always have. I always will. But yeah, I met you in the spring of 2005 was when I met you.
yeah.
And yeah, lime green has been my color, right? I claimed it as my color back in middle school, and nothing's changed. Even I incorporated it into my wedding. I try to sprinkle it here and there wherever I can. But yeah, still obsessed with that color. Always have, always will. My engagement ring is also lime green. It's a peridot stone, which is also my birthstone. But
got it.
Yeah. So
yeah, I remember one of the first memories, and I think I told you this recently, is I remember you had a Velcro tracksuit.
It was a bootleg Juicy couture suit because I couldn't afford Juicy back then.
And it was lime green. So here's this girl walking down the parking lot. She was helping us out with a situation we were having, and she's coming out in her lime green tracksuit. I was like, hey, girl, you're rocking it.
I mean, I don't know if you remember, but it wasn't just the lime green tracksuit. It was also the lime green flip-flops, chanclas. It was the lime green eyeshadow. It was the lime green backpack. It was like the whole thing. That's we don't talk about those times anymore. Okay, I've learned, I've grown from that. But yeah, still my color to this day.
Well, so I'm glad that we've still remained good friends since our days in undergrad. But now, recently we went to dinner, maybe a couple months ago, I think it was, and you shared something with me that I really felt like was I was so appreciative that you were open to sharing this very intimate piece, and even more so that you were open to sharing it with our listeners. And so it is an autoimmune disease that you were diagnosed with a couple of years ago. And so I really want to know a little bit more about your story, as much as you feel comfortable sharing. And I think we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, the nutshell version of the story is in March of 2019. I was suffering from double vision. It just started one day all of a sudden, and everything I was seeing was double. I mean, I'd go to work and I'd be talking to a coworker, and there'd be double of that coworker. I'd be writing something down and I'd have two pens in my hand. And I didn't know what exactly was going on. And, after about the second week or so, I was like, I should really go get this checked out. And so it was a Saturday morning. JPL, my husband, we went to the eye doctor. And I said, you know what, maybe I just need new glasses, whatever. Go to the eye doctor. I explained to her everything that's going on. And she's like, well, let's get you checked out. So she runs an eye exam and she comes back and she says, your eyes are fine, but you need to go to the emergency room and get an MRI. And I said, oh, like an MRI?
Yeah, that's not very common for your eye doctor to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, I was just like, why? And she's just like, she's like, you need to go, and you need to go now. And I said, okay, well, let me just pick out my new glasses, whatever, I'm going to get new lenses today. And she said, no glasses. You're going to the emergency room right now. And so I look at JPL and I was like, okay, well, let's go find an emergency room, that can do an MRI today. And so we walked to the car, we start Googling and like calling hospitals in the area. This is in Marina Del Rey. And UCLA Santa Monica, they're like, yes, we have an emergency room. We can do an MRI today. If you need one, come on in. So we go in and, as we're driving to Santa Monica, I was just like, I wonder why she's making me go get an MRI. Like, do you think she's just being overly cautious? And he's like, yeah, probably. She just wants to like, just make sure that she's ruling everything out. And I said, yeah, you're right. So we go to the hospital, I check in, and I'm just telling them like, hey, I have double vision. I can see two of everything. My eye doctor wants me to get an MRI. Here's her paperwork, like her recommendation or whatever. So I get the MRI done. This is hours later. The ER was so packed that I was on a gurney in the hallway because there were no more rooms.
Wow.
And I get the MRI done, and then like 2 hours after that, a team of doctors come to my bedside on the gurney, and I'm seeing doctors I hadn't seen throughout the day. And one of them introduces himself, and he's the head of neurology for UCLA Medical. And he says, we received the results of your MRI, and we see lesions in your brain. There's scarring in your brain, and that is indicative of multiple sclerosis. We're going to keep you here for the next several days to keep you under observation. So you'll be registered into a room shortly. They asked if I had any questions. I was in complete shock. And I looked at them and I just remember saying like, MS? Like, what? How? Why? I'm 32 years old. I'm healthy. I'm young. What do you mean MS?
Yeah.
And they said, we'll walk you through it, but in the meantime, let's get you registered into a room. And I looked at JPL, and the first one thing I just remember telling him is, call my brother. I said, call my brother, tell him not to tell mom and dad, but he needs to know what's going on. And JPL walked out, because we were in a basement, like in the hospital, so we didn't have reception. And I was admitted to the hospital, and I was there for 5 days. And during those 5 days, they ran a bunch of tests, and they all came back to, I have the scarring in the brain, and the scarring in the brain impacted one of the nerves for my eyes. And that's why I was seeing double vision. I was told that it's a progressive disease and it would get worse. I was told that I would have a relapse and I would be back in the hospital 6 months later. I was told that that instance was my eyes. The next instance could be loss of being able to use my limbs, loss of speech. They just pretty much gave me the laundry list of things that could go wrong the next time because of this disease.
Oh my goodness.
And that's where it all started. That was March 9th of 2019.
So you're sitting in, and thank you so much for sharing this. Like, no words, and I can only imagine what you were going through at that time. And now they're reading off this laundry list of things that can happen. What kind of things are running through your head though, as all of this is happening right in front of you and almost like no control?
Yeah, the first night in the hospital, I didn't sleep at all. And I remember I'd wake up every, let's call it hour on the hour, and I was just crying and crying. And, at that point, you're freaked out. Like, there's just no words. I mean, interestingly enough, at that point of March of 2019, in February of 2019, Selma Blair, the actor, she had just done an interview with Good Morning America because she was also diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And that February, she did a red carpet where she came out with her cane. Mm-hmm. And that's when the world knew that she had MS. Mm-hmm. And so she did this shocking, revelation interview with Good Morning America about her disease. And so that was very fresh. I had only seen that interview. I had seen that interview maybe 3 weeks before this happened to me. Yeah. So to have that so present, right, of knowing what MS is, seeing Selma Blair, right, hearing her talk about the symptoms she was going through. She's actually, at the time, she was talking about launching a new cane business, right, with like pimped out canes, basically, is the best I can describe it. For folks who have issues with mobility. And I just remember thinking about that interview and thinking about Selma Blair, and I was like, I'm going to be Selma Blair. Like, I'm going to get to that point too, where right now it's my eyes, but like the doctor said, next time I may not be able to walk. I may not be able to use my hands. I may not be able to verbalize how I'm feeling. I may have loss of speech. And as I'm sitting there in the hospital bed, I'm just thinking, like, I'm 32 years old. I, don't have kids. Will I be able to have kids? Yeah. What does this mean for my career? What does this mean for my marriage? Like, is my husband going to be okay dealing with this for the rest of his life? Do I need to move back in with my family so everyone can take care of me? Your mind just takes you to very, very dark places. And it's just fear. Like, fear grabs you. And it's so hard to shake it. Yeah. And then I think the third day in the hospital, they did a spinal tap test on me, which is they basically take a fluid from your spine, and then you're bedridden flat on the bed for 24 hours straight. You can't get up. Oh my goodness. And they said that spinal tap fluid test was going to be indicative of how advanced the MS was, because the signs were in the brain, but MS also impacts the spinal cord, and that's where folks lose mobility in, like, their arms, their legs, their limbs. Got it. And so they do that test, and I had to wait for the results of that test too, which is so scary.
Right. So stressful, not knowing.
Exactly. It's like, you don't know, like, it's bad, but how bad is it? And finally, so I went into the hospital on a Saturday. I worked the entire time. I sent my husband to go pick up my laptop from the office. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to distract myself. And if you know me, I'm a workaholic. I worked, I had meetings, I did my projects, and I did just try to live my life as normal as possible when you're in a hospital gown in a hospital. I just went into defensive mode and like self-protection mode. And at that moment, I was just like, I'm going to live my life as normal as possible. You being in the hospital, hooked up to machines, and people coming in every 2 hours to run tests on you, that is far from normal. But that was my self-preservation tactic, to just keep things as normal as possible.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know too much about MS. And so what exactly is it? Did they share, like, how did it develop, or anything, like any historical stuff that they shared?
Yeah, so what MS is, it's your own immune system attacking the best way I could describe it, it's my immune system attacks the casing around the nerves in my brain. and it's called the myelin. And so my
Okay.
immune system somehow has identified my myelin as like intruder, goes in there, attacks
Oh,
it, breaks it down. And so my nerves are then exposed. And that's where things start to happen, like the slurred speech, loss of speech, blurred vision, double vision, like what I had. Actually, double vision is very common as like an initial symptom.
mhm.
Really bad headaches, fatigue. And we're not just talking like, oh, I'm tired. It's like, no, a very
Extreme.
deep, extreme fatigue
Mhm,
where your body cannot function.
mhm.
Um, and they don't know what really causes it. There is no cure for multiple sclerosis right now. There are medicines um, to help stop the progression of it getting worse. Um, but no one really knows why. What is known is that it's more common in women than in men.
Oh, wow.
Interestingly enough, I wrote this down because I was just like, this is so important. Um, Women, according to the National MS Society, women may be up to 3 times more likely than men to develop multiple sclerosis. And
Wow, I didn't even know this.
the time frame for diagnosis is around our most fertile years. So late 20s to mid 30s is
Mhm.
that age range where it's most prevalent in women.
Wow, wow. So you're in the hospital, and at day 5, what was a determining factor that you were able to go home?
Determining factor was the whole time I was in the hospital, I was doing these steroid treatments via
Mhm,
IV to bring down the inflammation, restore my vision.
mhm.
So initially they were like, we're going to give you this IV treatment. You should be out of here in 2 days. Great. Nope. Those 2 days they came in and I was like, I'm still seeing double. More steroids, more steroids, more steroids. So finally Wednesday morning they came in and I didn't see double anymore. So they're
Okay.
like, okay, we'll discharge you today at like 2 p.m. Um, and, it was going home and I just, I remember we came home to the apartment and I told JPL, I said, you should go buy me a cane. I said, you should go buy me a cane because this thing's going to get worse. And I don't want to wake up one day and like need a cane and we don't have one. And I remember he looked at me and he said, I'm not getting you a cane because we're going to beat this.
Mm.
And I said, okay. And I mean, the grief is real. And to anyone that may be going through something similar, whether it's a diagnosis for yourself or a diagnosis for a loved one, um, the grieving process is very, very real. And
Yeah,
it's just the acknowledgement of what is my new normal.
right. How life could potentially be, or even thinking back on how life could have been, or all of these thoughts that are coming up at this time, right?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, your mind just starts racing like, when does that mean I can go on vacation? Because I was discharged from the hospital on Wednesday, and on Thursday, we had a New Orleans trip planned. I was supposed to be on a flight to New Orleans that Thursday, and my
Mhm.
doctors cleared me to go. But again, you all know I'm a workaholic. I get discharged on Wednesday. Thursday morning, I'm back in the office, acting like nothing happened. People are like, oh, you
Mm.
took some time off? Yep, took some time off. One of my coworkers was like, oh, were you in the New York office? I was like, yeah, was in the New York office the whole time. just tried act, call it the stigma, I was embarrassed. I
Yeah.
was not, I didn't want to share it with anyone. I was just like, no,
Right.
yeah, I was in New York. We're good. We're good. Great meeting on Tuesday, just playing it like nothing happened.
Mm.
I go to work on on that Thursday. Our flight was at like 6 p.m. to New Orleans that Thursday night. I get so sick in the bathroom. So, so sick. I don't know if it was because
All the
all the
medicine,
medicine or
anxiety,
who knows. I mean, I
yeah, the
got so sick.
stress.
So I called JPL and I said, you need to pick me up. Like, I'm not well. And I used to live 1.2 miles from work.
Very
And
nice.
in those 1.2 miles, we had to pull over a couple times because I was physically ill. And so,
Wow.
we canceled our flights, we canceled our hotel, we canceled everything. And you're like, we're not going to New Orleans. Like, we need to stay here and, address this.
Mm.
Um, and yeah,
Wow. So, they had shared in the hospital that 6 months later you'd have another relapse. How has it been since you've been diagnosed?
yeah. So 6 months later, and I just want to preface this that I am speaking strictly from my own personal experience, my own personal wellness journey.
Hmm.
I do not pretend to be a medical professional, nor do I ever want that to be the perception. I'm
Hmm.
sharing this strictly from my own experience. If you or a family member think that you may be undergoing some sort of condition, please go seek medical advice and go seek your medical doctor. Do not take anything I have to say as your own personal advice, because a medical journey is a very personal journey. So I just
Hmm.
want to preface it with that.
Hmm.
So, what happens? Two things happen. Number one is I had to make sure that my physical health was in order. At that point, I've always been genuinely pretty healthy. I mean, I don't work out. I've always admitted to being a little on the lazy side. Actually, not a little on the lazy side, a lot on the lazy side. I don't work out. But we really had to think about, okay, what's my journey here? I don't want to be back in 6 months.
Right.
I don't want to need that cane.
Hmm.
And so the first part was my physical well-being, and the second part was my mental well-being.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, starting with the mental well-being piece of it, um, I was very privileged that at the time my employer had a counselor come on site every Tuesday to meet with employees, on a confidential basis.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and her and I got along fabulously, and so that Tuesday, so I get discharged from the hospital Wednesday. I go to the office on Thursday, and then I take the time off. And then when I come back to work that Monday, I email her and I set an appointment with her on Tuesday. And she's still my therapist today, so shout out to her. Um, and I said to her, something's come up and I need to talk to someone about it. And she said, absolutely. I went in, I sat down with her, and I was just a puddle of grief, a
Mhm.
puddle of shock.
Mhm.
And she really helped me understand and comprehend the fact that me grieving was okay.
Yeah,
Me not being okay was okay. Um, she really just helped me comprehend, like, Gabby, you don't have to be a badass all the time.
you
Like,
can take breaks.
you can take a break,
Mhm.
and you can give yourself some grace right now because you're going through a lot. She helped me understand that what I was going through was trauma,
Yeah,
and she labeled it as such. And that for me was like, you're right. Like, this is trauma. This is really traumatic experience that I'm going through.
absolutely. I mean, like with when you see like PTSD, it is the intense fear that either something's going to happen to you, like you're going to die, or somebody else close to you, or even watching it happen, not even happening to you. These are all part of the PTSD diagnoses and the trauma that has happened to you. These effects of going into just work mode and wanting to be like everything is fine. It's a trauma response. You don't know what to do. It feels like it feels not normal.
Right.
And so you want
And
to get to normality, quote unquote, as quickly as possible.
yeah, and she was just really good about letting me cope with the way that I felt was best for me at the time. And um, I also have a very strong relationship with my spiritual faith, and I really leaned into that in a big,
Hmm.
big way. Um, I just felt really supported by, believing in a power bigger than my own, bigger than myself.
Hmm.
And that, without a doubt, also really helped me through some really, really dark times. Um, and, above all, it was just, again, just giving myself the grace, right, to not be okay.
Yeah,
Like, it's okay to not be okay.
yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, or complementary to that, was the physical piece. My neurologist immediately recommended some treatments. And
Hmm.
after researching those treatments, JPL and I made the very personal decision to not move forward with them. We just did a lot of research as far as, looking into side effects, what could happen, um, what's the worst case scenario, what's the best case scenario.
Hmm.
There aren't any treatments that'll cure it. There are only treatments that claim to slow it down.
Yeah.
And so we made the very personal decision to not move forward with those treatments on the basis of the side effects that
Hmm.
were very, that we knew could happen. I mean, at the moment, they asked me if I was planning on having children anytime soon because of the medications. That to me was very telling. And ultimately, it's because one of the treatments or one of the medications, if I wanted to get pregnant, I would have to take another medicine to basically flush out the first medicine in
Oh,
order
wow.
for like the fetus to not be affected. And I said,
Yeah.
look, I'm not planning on having kids anytime soon, but my gosh, like
Yeah,
this is
that's a lot for another
that is a
medicine to
lot
have
for
to
anybody.
flush out another one.
Right. So again, I always say that medical journeys are very personal. And for mine, my husband and I decided that I wasn't going to go the medicinal route. And instead, what we did is had a complete overhaul. I don't even want to call it a diet change. I call it a lifestyle change.
Hmm.
I eliminated gluten. I eliminated dairy. I eliminated soy. Basically anything that would cause inflammation to the body. So along
I
with
see.
removing those three things, we also cut out red meat. We started focusing on very lean meats, heavy fish, minimizing processed foods. Again,
Hmm.
right, anything that can help fight inflammation in my body.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I lost a lot of weight, and
Hmm.
just strictly from removing those things. And just making sure that my stress levels were under control. That's been really
Hmm.
big for me too, is just being able to control my stress.
Hmm.
Again, I work a lot, and I always have, and I probably always will. And but I had to manage my stress levels in the workplace, and
Hmm.
just really give my body that fighting chance.
Hmm.
I was told that I'd be back in 6 months. It's now been 2 years and 3 months, and I feel better than I did before I even went in the first place.
Wow, that's
The
amazing.
headaches do come, and they come really strong. That's the one thing that I still suffer from, is just migraine. I mean, before the MS, I never had migraines. And then when I was diagnosed, I was like, coincidentally, I've been having these really, really bad headaches. So
Mm-hmm.
now I have Excedrin like in my purse, in my car, in JPL's car, in his wallet, in my wallet, at home, at my
Everywhere.
parents, everywhere. Back, pre-COVID, I'd have, Excedrin packets in the office.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's pretty much the only thing that I still suffer from on a more consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
Other things include there have been instances where my speech is delayed and I notice it,
Mm-hmm.
and or I start stuttering or slurring my speech a little bit. And so I notice those things. And so when that does happen, I just make a very conscious effort to slow down, right? And give myself the opportunity to enunciate my words. Um, Forgetfulness and just like memory issues with memory is another symptom of MS.
Mm-hmm.
I just write everything down, like everything. I write it down.
Mm-hmm.
I always like have a huge notebook with me for the same
Mm-hmm.
reason, because I know
Mm-hmm.
that it could possibly happen. So in order for me to avoid that from happening, I just write it all down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Finding ways to
overall,
cope.
yeah, exactly. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, I'm very thankful and I'm very blessed that, I have a really incredible partner. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm getting really emotional every time I talk about just how incredible he is. But JPL is the epitome of, um, I'm going to make your illness into our wellness. He took that I and illness and made it into a we for him and I and my wellness.
Mm-hmm.
He also cut out gluten and dairy.
He's feeling real lean these days.
He's really missing sour cream too, I'm sure. Um, no, but it's so important to surround yourself with people who support you emotionally, physically. My I shared it with a very, very small group of my girlfriends. Ones who I shared it with, we shed tears together, and one of them sent me a care package. Like, it was the sweetest thing. I came home one day and there was this care package sitting there, and it was like all things to take
Mhm,
care of myself, with this
mhm,
MS. My girlfriends who know that I don't eat gluten and dairy, they'll make special trips. Like, for example, during Christmas, I had a girlfriend deliver cookies to everyone, and she went and she got me special goodies that were gluten free and dairy free because she knows I don't eat that, and she like delivered it to me, which is really sweet. And
so
again, it's
special.
yeah, it's about
Mhm,
surrounding yourself with people who will support you in the good, the
mhm,
bad, and the ugly,
mhm.
and the unknown.
Right, right. Yeah, it's
And
so important to have these supportive people around you, and just knowing that you're not alone, that even if it feels like you are, that you have, like you said, an incredible partner and people that really love and care about you and that are there for you when you need them.
yeah, absolutely. And again, just like my mental health journey too through this all, during after the grief part came the how do I cope with this? And I
Mhm,
actually heavily relied on gratitude. I mean, I really made it an effort to find all the things I needed to be grateful for. And that became a huge source of comfort for me, of
mhm,
not looking at it as like I'm sick. I now have this lifetime disease on my shoulders. And instead of looking at it as I woke up today and I'm feeling okay.
yeah, I'm alive.
Today, today I didn't have a headache.
Yeah.
Today I felt my speech going, but I was able to control it. Um, Today I found really delicious new gluten-free, dairy-free cookies that I'm really excited about. It turned into acts of finding the things to be excited about, be happy about, and holding on to those things.
Yeah. Yeah, because that mindset, like if it's always um like going into the worst possible situations, and that really, really takes an effect on how we feel about ourselves, of course, and the outlook on things gets really, really affected. And so being able to turn it around, and I like that, like strength based, and looking at it with gratitude,
Yeah,
versus
and
the things that you can do versus the things that you can't do.
right.
So
And,
important.
I spent maybe about a year in that frame of mind, right? The gratitude piece, the gratitude piece. And then about a year, this is early in 2020, it just hit me like a sack of bricks.
Hmm.
And I went to go, seek a therapist again because I just felt like, oh my gosh, I never mourned this. Like I never mourned the new normal. Like I went into such a reactionary, like self-preservation mode through gratitude, through, you know, changing my lifestyle and like really focusing on that, that I never actually mourned the fact that, hey,
Hmm.
Gabby, you're going to have this for the rest of your life. And that's really scary.
Hmm.
And, I went back to therapy and, even my therapist told me, like, that was your defense mechanism and that was your survival skill.
Yep.
And you held on to that. And it's been, a year now. And now you're coming back to the realization, right? It's still stages of grief, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. Where
Um,
bargaining comes in, and if I would do this, will I get that? And the depression and sadness and anger, even all part
right.
of it.
Yeah,
Part of it.
absolutely.
And never in a linear line either. It's not linear. Comes as depending on where you are.
Yeah, it's not. But again, right, just going back to how important, just mental health and mental wellness is, and
Hmm.
just being given that space to mourn with a professional, like,
Hmm.
why am I crying about this, a year later? And, she was like, because this is how you're still grieving. And, she brought
Hmm.
that to my attention. She said, you're still grieving and it's
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
And so now, when you invited me to come chat with you, uh at first I was like, dang, I don't want to for people to hear this story. And in Spanish it's causar lástima, or
Hmm.
have people feel sorry for me. uh
Hmm.
at one point JPL was like, what if your boss hears this? And I was just like, let him.
Let him hear it. I was about to
Yeah.
say, let him hear it.
No, I mean, he's great. And but I just never want to be in a position where I'm offered or I'm given, special privileges because of this.
Hmm.
If anything, I've really focused on the fact that I have multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis does not have me, right? Like that's the frame of mind I approach everything with.
Well said.
Um,
Well
so,
said.
did I work a little longer? I did, right after the diagnosis. Did
Hmm.
I work a little harder? I did, a lot harder. Um, because I needed to prove to myself um, that I was going to be okay. And again, another self-preservation, self-care tactic of mine, right? Where just like, no one's telling you to do these things, Gabby, but there you are.
Hmm.
But it's there's a lot that comes with like the stigma of, talking about these things.
Yeah, I
They
mean, like I
say that
definitely
MS
go
is
ahead.
it's two parts. So they say that MS is a snowflake because every person's symptoms and experience is very, very, very different from the next. And the
Oh,
second is, MS is like it's a silent disease. Like you see me and I think I look okay. I mean, I don't know. You tell me. You just saw me for
yep,
dinner a couple months ago.
yep.
Um, but, I don't, unless I talk about it, I don't tell people like, hey, I just came back from like sitting in the closet for 30 minutes because I had a really bad migraine and I was just trying to block out the light, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think for a lot of people, it's like that. And interestingly enough, though, as I started sharing with a couple people that I felt comfortable with, they opened up and they shared with me about their own
Mhm.
autoimmune disease journeys. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea. And they're like,
Like you're
yeah,
not the only one. It's maybe
yes,
doesn't feel as lonely.
100%. And, if anyone's listening today and they want to chat, like, please reach out. If you want to reach out to me and I'm a complete stranger, I am happy to talk to you. If one of your loved ones is going through something and you want, some tips on how to support them, I'm happy to talk to you, but you're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really admire just like, your courage and strength in being here. And I think that was the biggest piece that I wanted to bring awareness to this. And I am so grateful that you said yes, because um, it's not something that people just kind of outwardly say. And not that anybody should, but at least being able to normalize a little bit more, seeing that I've never heard of anybody that I know personally that has had this. I don't feel like it's very, uh, it probably is prevalent in the Latino community, but it very much like a hush hush, or that's just how they are. That's a very normal statement that I feel is
Hmm.
often said. Así son, así es él, o así es ella. And so I really am so appreciative that you were comfortable enough to share this, because I can guarantee you that somebody that's listening is like, I know exactly what she's going through, or I've been through something similar, or I know somebody that has, whether it be MS or another autoimmune disease.
Yeah, and that's all I hope for, is that folks know. Again, right, just acknowledging my own privilege of having such a strong support system, and my family, my partner, my friends, even my work. My boss was so supportive. I mean, my boss and my boss's boss were just like, whatever you need, don't even question it, and
Mhm.
just really feeling that support in the workplace, which again, I was so scared to tell them,
Mhm.
because I was just
Mhm.
like, I don't want them to feel that, like, if
You
I
can't do
have a
your
headache,
job
or
or
yeah, that I
something.
can't do my job anymore, that if I have a
Yeah.
headache, that I'm like faking it, and again, there's just a lot of stigma that comes with it, and I really hope that more conversations like the one you and I are having today help break that stigma.
Absolutely.
Multiple sclerosis it is a disability recognized by the ADA.
Mhm.
And I try my best not to remember that. I try my best to not acknowledge the fact that it is a disability, but it is. Um,
So more
and
so that
and
you're still living your life in the best way that you can, and coping, which sounds like really with really good techniques.
shout out to my therapist. I know she's probably listening to this, and I have a lot of
Mhm.
gratitude for her. She's been instrumental, and as have my family and my friends, and yeah, multiple sclerosis awareness. Happy to answer any questions from anyone ever. And again, right, every person's experience is vastly different from the next, so
Mhm. So,
keep that in
well,
mind.
Gabby, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Again, like I just admire your strength and resilience, and just sharing your story, because I know that it's not easy. But I really am so grateful that you were open to sharing it, with me and those that are listening, because I'm sure that it can definitely bring awareness and allow others to be able to say, yeah, me too. So I really, really thank you.
Yeah, and I thank you for all the work you're doing, and continuing to further these stories, right, and expand these stories within our Latino community and beyond.
Mhm.
Just bringing this awareness to the table from a mental health standpoint, as well as just a physical health standpoint.
Yeah.
I just want to express my gratitude to you for doing that, and thank you for the invitation. Invitations open to anyone who wants to reach out and chat more.
Mhm.
um, Open to connecting with anyone who might need it.
Perfect. So I'm going to link Gabby's email address somewhere in a box below so that you can reach out to Gabby. But again, I thank you so much for being here. And please, comment, message us if you have any questions, if you want to connect with Gabby. I can always do like a warm introduction, so please reach out. But I want to thank you, Gabby, again for being here and everybody for listening. Yeah, any final words?
No, just I hope everyone's having a great day.
Awesome. All right, everyone, take good care, and we'll see each other next time. Bye.